Welcome, Annabel, to another episode of the Emetophobia-Free podcast. Annabel Hitchin is here with us today to talk about her daughter's journey through the Emetophobia-Free program and, really importantly, the signs and symptoms to look out for as a parent if you believe or are concerned about your child and you think they may have emetophobia. So we're really excited to have Annabel here. Hello, Annabel.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me.
It's lovely to have you. So, Annabel, do you want to just start from the beginning? Start from the beginning with the story and what age your daughter was when she first started displaying symptoms of emetophobia, and at that point you were unaware that that's what it was.
Absolutely. So, Charlotte probably started displaying her first signs of emetophobia when she was in year 3, so about 7 or 8, which I guess is probably the most common time to start displaying symptoms.
Yeah.
So, she it didn't wear a label. Emetophobia doesn't wear a label. And so she said she complained often of stomach aches. She told me a lot that she was feeling sick. She couldn't stay in school assemblies. She found that really, really hard. And we couldn't understand why. She often wanted to come home from school. And so we tried to investigate all of these things. We had many doctor's appointments. They felt her tummy. We had blood tests. We had many investigations, and nobody could give us an answer about anything. She didn't like going in the car. She had terrible motion sickness. So that's how she would articulate it. She didn't want to eat, but at the time, age 7 or 8, she never said, I didn't want to eat because I'm going to be sick. She just didn't want to eat, and she particularly didn't want to eat out. And because she wasn't eating, and because now we know that she was terrified, she looked pale and peaky all the time, and we thought she was really quite unwell. She not immediately, but I guess after a couple of years, she started to have panic attacks, and those became quite a regular thing. And we're talking, and in the beginning, probably once every couple of weeks, but they would last quite a while. And I had no idea how to help her in a panic attack. You try everything from the comforting to the come on, you can come out of this end of the scale. And her friendships were impacted because everybody would think of her as slightly different. It made going out as a family really difficult, whether we went to friends' houses. And so I think it was just a tough time. It was a really tough time for Charlotte, but it was a very tough time for the family as well. Going on holiday, particularly difficult because, and I still have to remember this today. It's unknown. She didn't know what she was going to eat. It was all completely unknown, but of course I didn't know why. It was just we'd get on holiday and the wheels would fall off.
Okay.
And so to give you an example of what that looked like, I remember we went to Amsterdam on a long weekend to go and see, the Van Gogh Museum and Anne Frank's house and eat wonderful food. And our first morning there, we went to the Van Gogh Museum, and we hadn't even got on the tram, and she was already creating this panic. And so we couldn't actually go into the Van Gogh Museum because she all she could say was, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick.
Right.
And of course, I colluded with her, as I now know that it's called. I was like, no, you're not going to be sick. And, I didn't know any of the right language to help her.
Yeah.
So we went off in search of a chemist, of something to help her stomach, because I did think that that's what was going to happen. Thought she might have a bug.
Yep.
And yeah, so I think the whole holiday we managed to eat out in a restaurant once for that long weekend, and the rest of the time we would eat out and she would have something in the room when we got back, something really simple that had come out of a packet.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was when she was 12, that holiday.
Okay.
And about that time, her tics started to evolve. So she would scratch her throat like this as a sort of soothing mechanism, and a couple of other things that were just very telling of her anxious state, that they would always come out. And I think one other thing to add was, so she was at the Amsterdam trip, the airport was very bad. We had lots of panicking there, but she also has had still doesn't like boats, but a very strong clear fear of boats.
Okay.
So yeah, and then when she was around the age of 12, we took her to see a therapist for some CBT work. It helped a little bit in the beginning. She prescribed, when the therapist couldn't help Charlotte with her panic attacks, because she made her a recording to help her when she had them. Then she would talk to her, and that had no impact after a while. So she prescribed her she asked us to go and get some mild beta blockers. So they did work in the moment, but I mean, they didn't make any difference whatsoever, as they wouldn't.
No.
Now I know that now. And I think I would say this I do say this to everybody. I knew in my heart that this was not right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working, but I just didn't know the answer. So it's like, oh, where am I going to turn next? Because there was just no help. And I Googled everything, but I was obviously Googling the wrong thing. By this time, she just started senior school. And this was still continuing. And I really worried how she was ever going to participate in life, let alone pass an exam or anything, or even sit an exam. And then, in a way, thank goodness for her kind of extreme Googling of everything under the sun. And she came to me and told me that she had emetophobia. And I was like, well, what on earth is that? So this was now in the summer of 2022.
So how old was she then?
So she was year 11. So she was 15.
Gosh, so she's had it a very long time, didn't she?
8 years of suffering because nobody, well, me, I didn't know. I couldn't find a way to help her.
Yeah, and I guess any of the professionals you saw didn't know about emetophobia either and didn't bring it up, which is still the case. It's still the case.
In fact, I feel like going back to her GP and her therapist now and saying, right, I need to educate you. I'm just write that on my to-do list. Right?
Yes. Absolutely. It can only help more people, can't it? Because it is so what is the word for it? Soul destroying is what I would call it. When you finally tell somebody this is what's going on for me, and you put your finger on it yourself, because Charlotte might not have known herself what it was for quite a while and what she was afraid of.
No.
But when you finally articulate it, and the professional there that you are going to for help and support doesn't know what you're talking about, or doesn't understand what it is you're going through, it's really difficult. It's a very lonely place to be. So the more people that know about emetophobia, the better. Absolutely.
So yeah, I googled emetophobia, and a cure for emetophobia or help for emetophobia. And of course, I found the Thrive program.
Fabulous. Yep.
And so I think I got her the manual, and then I think it took me about 3 weeks to realize that we needed a coach.
Okay.
And so we had we were connected with Esther Jones,
Yep.
and Charlotte saw her for the 6 to 8 weeks. And even on that initial chat with Esther, I could see kind of this light bulb switch on in Charlotte, that there was hope. Somebody understood, oh my goodness, I'm not going to have to live like this for the rest of my life.
Amazing. Yeah.
And that was kind of the moment that I thought, I want to be a part of this transformation. I want to be a Thrive program coach
Amazing.
eventually. Yeah.
Amazing. From that very first meeting, that's it. That's exciting, isn't it?
And
That's impressive.
it was like that planted the seed. Yeah.
Nice. Yes. Lovely.
Really, really transformational. So that was from in the August, and then by the Christmas, she was so much improved. It was really amazing. I can remember Christmas Day. She ate. We understood what was going on, so we didn't put quite so much. We didn't put the pressure on her. We used better language.
Yeah.
It was all together a better experience for everybody.
Brilliant.
And Charlotte in particular.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, she basically worked hard, and in the January after that, she joined a youth theatre group.
Nice.
Something she would never have been able to do, and it was her absolute passion, musical theatre. In the May and the June after that, she sat her GCSEs, and she got all 8s and 9s. She managed to stay in the room. In that summer, we went to Gozo. I can absolutely remember us sitting on the street eating pizza, which is something she never ever would have trusted.
Yes.
Like, there would be no way. And we ate out quite a lot that holiday. The food was quite strange for her.
Brilliant.
She coped with a plane journey. And then that October, she went on a school trip with lots and lots of coach journeys to Greece, and she coped with that, and she never would have done that.
No.
So really, really transformed her life, that from not being able to do anything to that. And then last year she passed her driving test. She actually managed to have some lessons and not feel sick, be in control, pass her driving test. She got a main role in her youth theatre group, and overcame her nerves and the anxiety she was creating. I'm sure there was quite a lot of anxiety in actually just being on the stage, but triple anxiety there would have been from her emetophobia as well. She went with her school for a 10-day run at the Edinburgh Fringe, where the whole unknown food. I know that she did have some blips in that time just because it was so full on. But the amazing thing now is, even if I see her start to do her soothing, I know that she can cope. And we sort of give each other that I know, and I know.
Yeah.
So it just incredible transformation, really. And now,
Brilliant.
I know that there are moments, and I think that probably every emetophobe still has, even though they've been through the program, has those odd moments. And yeah, just she has her life back, and she's hopefully going to go to university and onward and upward.
That's amazing. It's an amazing story and an amazing journey that you went on as a family. And it was a really long one. That was a lot of years where you knew there was an issue, but you couldn't find the solution. And I'm wondering if, from parents' perspective, who are currently in the position you were in. So they have a child with the symptoms and perhaps they are wondering, is it emetophobia? Is it not? Maybe they've never heard of emetophobia, they just know they're scared of being sick. What was the journey through the program like? So I think for the majority of people, the vast majority of people who've never done the Thrive program or aren't aware of it, they may presume it's a type of therapy of some description, or it's some sort of exposure therapy where you set yourself tasks or a bit CBT-ish. In your opinion, and from your perspective, what did it feel like for yourself supporting Charlotte through it, and what was Charlotte's experience of the program?
So I think it's, for me, I can just remember the opening of my eyes to, so this is how your thinking works. And actually that being really fascinating. And I think because, as I guess most emetophobes, pretty bright people, pretty clever people, I think that's what Charlotte actually really enjoyed, that it was something she could kind of get her teeth into, and each week there was something to learn, and the learning was helping her. I want to say, because it's not really, although I wasn't a emetophobe, I felt like it isn't like being ill. It's not like having a cold. It's your all consuming life is like, life is this thing that it's like a big wave that's overwhelmed you. And how I saw her react with her learning a bit every day is that, having been totally consumed by the wave, I would now see her get her head above water. And the further that she went through, the more she would have her head over the water. And then there would come a little wave, and she would just go under, but then she would come back up again.
Yes.
I think that's the best analogy. And I think for myself as well, just the realization of the collusion language, perhaps. I think as a child, I remember really disliking getting into a foreign bed and wanting to check it. And I remember being told by my mother that I never ate my lunch when I was out. And so I came to realize that probably I had a few of those experiences as well, just not as extreme as that. But yeah, I think that the completely drowning to, as you went on and on, getting your head above water, I think would be the way I would describe it.
Lovely. Okay, brilliant. So I'm gonna put in a little bit from myself there. I never thought of the wave analogy. It's a fantastic one, and I love it. I felt like my brain was a big ball of wool. That's how I would describe it, and everything was intertangled and intertwined, and I couldn't make sense of where one thought started and where the other ended, and what I was scared of in what moment, and it was all a big mess, a big ball of mess. And I think as I went through the program and I learned, because it is a training program, it's an education program, when you learn, when you start to understand, you can start to pull threads out and you go, oh, I understand that bit. And then you sort of lay it down and go, right, that bit, I understand that. And then you can do it with another one. And slowly but surely you untangle this big web that's in your mind.
I think that is a really good way of describing it.
Yeah, so it becomes more understandable for you, and then you can do something about it. Because when you are drowning, you're completely powerless. And when you've got this big web, you don't know where to start. But it just allows you to understand yourself to such a degree, and then gives you concrete step-by-step skills. Okay, so this is what you're doing. This is what you need to do differently. You can then start to take those steps, and that's when you start to get your head above water and you go, oh, okay, I've not felt sick today, or I've not thought about that today, which is so lovely and so refreshing and such a relief when you've been living with emetophobia for so long, because it is all consuming.
Oh, totally.
So from a parent's perspective then, what advice would you give to anybody, any other parent out there who is perhaps considering going through the program, or is wondering if this is the right thing for their child?
So I think I would say that the longer that you waver and go, is it, isn't it, whatever,
Yeah.
the more strongly that they believe that nothing can change. And so, but also I think the long, 8 years of suffering, that's a long time. And you probably suffered for a lot longer than that, being in your 20s. And I think I would say that if you're considering going through the program, even if you didn't have emetophobia, going through the program is so empowering and life-changing. Regardless, it just do it.
Yes. Just do it. So I completely agree with you. How about those parents who have a child with emetophobia but are super busy, and they would like the program or the coach almost to do the work with the child for them? Do you believe you would get the same result if you as a parent weren't fully invested, weren't on board, weren't learning yourself, wasn't applying this stuff yourself? Do you believe you'd have got the same result today if that would not have happened?
Definitely not.
Okay.
And I think actually I was a bit too busy and a bit not invested enough.
Okay.
And I'll say that because I think that some of the things that continue today with Charlotte, we could have got on top of, helped her get on top of sooner by being more deeply invested. So I think really big kind of flag, this is an probably a 10-week investment because you want to start the program a little bit before your child. But it's 10 weeks, what's that, not even 3 months of your life and for the rest of your child's life. Just take that time and it will be a really amazing journey together. Just do it again. Just do it. But yes, the importance of investing the time. I think it's super helpful to listen to many of your podcasts, because I think that they will help you notice some of the telltale things that are going on. So for example, Charlotte used to leave the little crusts of whatever she was eating because she had touched it. And I did not know that that's what that was all about. And so I used to get really cross and go, just finish it. But now it's like, just whatever.
Yes, that's quite a common one, quite a common safety-seeking behaviour, that one, definitely. Okay, so I guess the question would be the little bits that are remaining for Charlotte, if she does have occasional, because I'm guessing they are occasional, blips. Does she know, and is she confident in her ability to overcome them? And are you confident that her emetophobia is gone?
So yes to both. The ball is in her court, really. She has those skills in her toolkit. I know because she's given me that evidence all along the way, that even, when she was in Edinburgh for those 10 days, I wasn't there. She was living in essentially a uni accommodation with her friends. I know that she has the tools in her toolkit, that if she has a blip, that she knows how to overcome that. And I think she also has the tools in her toolkit. For example, I'm sure that when she gets out of her school environment and she decides that actually leaving my crusts on my plate, I don't want to do that anymore. She knows how to. She knows how to deal with that.
Yep. Yes. I think that's a really important point, that, Annabel, because you can be over your emetophobia but still have habits that remain.
Yeah.
Because you've not tackled them. So I think I've said this on a podcast before. The final thing to go for me was eating with my hands, which is similar to Charlotte. But it was a packet of crisps, actually. I would never eat a packet of crisps with my hands. I would always get the packet of crisps and scrunch it up to smithereens and then tip it into my mouth. I would never do it. Now, I was over at a certain point. I'd been going through the program maybe 7-8 months in, and I was living life beautifully, and I wasn't scared of being sick. So I thought, well, if I am, I'll cope, it'll be fine. And I'd come so far, but I was still scrunching up these packets of crisps. But I knew what to do. I knew in the back of my mind, if I just put a little bit of effort in, a little bit of work here, I could stop doing that. And it was a decision. It was a conscious decision to either scrunch that packet of crisps up or not. And I think that's a wonderful place to be, because if you've still got a few habits but you know you can overcome them with a little bit of effort, then you're still in the position of power there, aren't you? Still in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. And I think that there's so many other things going on in her life right now. She's coming up to doing her A levels. Though the energy and the effort is going in that direction, not in putting that effort that's required in challenging those last few behaviours.
Yes. And
habits, I would definitely say habits.
Yes, because they're probably not driven by that fear anymore. They're just, well, I've always done this, so I'm going to continue to do that because it's easy.
Exactly.
Doesn't impact my life that much. I can still have a life while I'm doing it. So it's like a little layover from it, which is completely fine. But as you say, she will probably get to a stage at some stage, well, I don't want to do this. I want to be able to finish everything, even if I've touched it, and she will challenge it. And that's wonderful to know that the ball is in her court, and she won't need any other assistance or outside intervention for that. She knows what to do, which is such a lovely thing, isn't it? So that's been absolutely really, really helpful. The detail that you went into there for anybody watching, any parents watching that are considering whether this is the right thing for my child, or do they have emetophobia? Incredibly helpful, Annabel. Do you have any final words of wisdom or anything that you would like to say before we finish today? Because obviously you're a coach now, you are working away happily in Surrey, in Woking in Surrey in the UK. So obviously if you are a parent out there and you're thinking, oh, Annabel, it'd be great to take us through, that's, she's there, she's ready and available. But do you have any final words for the people listening today?
I think I remember hesitating about before going for it with Charlotte on the programme, and looking back, I have no idea why I hesitated, but I know that you do have to lean into it and trust the process.
Yes.
But I would say just think of how your child is feeling with that head full of wool underneath that wave, whichever way you like to look at it, and crack on with it. Yes. Because it is really life-changing for you and the family, for them and the family. Yeah.
Brilliant. Lovely. Well, thank you so much. It's been lovely to have you here today, Annabel.
Thank you for having me, and lovely to chat.